At the dawn of the 20th century, America was a country full of promise and hope for many. Black Americans faced a different reality, a nation separate and unequal. Yet their hope persisted. Pained by inequality, but inspired by resilience, writer and civil rights activist James Weldon Johnson put pen to paper. His words would become a unifying call, a hope for a brighter tomorrow, a timeless exhortation to lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing a rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory is won. Let us march on till victory.
There are forces that want to take us back to another place. We don't want to go back.
Or Negro History Week, which was introduced by historian Carter G. Woodson, you will find out 10 Black history facts that are least known in today's video. So sit back, relax, hold tight, something unique is coming your way. Before there was Rosa Parks, there was Claudette Colvin. Most people, including you, think of Rosa Parks as the first person to refuse to give up their seat on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. Well, several women came before Rosa Parks, one of whom was Claudette Colvin. It was March 2nd, 1955, when the 15-year-old schoolgirl refused to move to the back of the bus. This incident happened 9 months before Rosa Parks' stand that launched the Montgomery bus boycott. Claudette had been studying Black leaders like Harriet Tubman in her segregated school. Those conversations had led to a discussion around the current day Jim Crow laws they were all experiencing. When the bus driver ordered Claudette to get up, she refused. Claudette said it felt like Sojourner Truth was on one side pushing me down, and Harriet Tubman was on the other side of me pushing me down. I couldn't get up. Claudette Colvin's stand didn't stop there. She had the will to do something for her people, which got her arrested and thrown in jail. She was one of 4 women who challenged the segregation law in court. If Broder v. Gale became the court case that successfully overturned the bus segregation laws in both Montgomery and the state of Alabama, why has Claudette's story been largely forgotten? At the time, the NAACP and other Black organizations felt Rosa Parks made a better icon for the movement than a teenager. As an adult with the right looks, Rosa Parks was also the NAACP secretary and was both well-known and respected. People would associate her with the middle class, which would also attract support for the cause. But the struggle to end segregation was often fought by young people, more than half of which were women. The courage of Claudette Colvin has become just another story. To pay tribute to a 15-year-old girl's bravery, you can read Claudette Colvin's book, Twice Towards Justice. Martin Luther King Jr. improvised the most iconic part of his I Have a Dream speech. It's normal to improvise speeches on stage, but "I have a dream" sounds impossible, but it's true. On Wednesday, August the 28th, 1963, 250,000 Americans united at the Lincoln Memorial for the March's final speech on Washington. As Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the podium, he eventually pushed his notes aside. The night before the march, Dr. King began working on his speech with a small group of advisors in the Willard Hotel lobby. The original speech was more political and less historic, according to Clarence B. Jones, and it didn't include any references to dreams. After delivering the now famous line,
"No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream,"
Dr. King transformed his speech into a sermon. On stage during Dr. King, singer Mahalia Jackson reportedly kept saying, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." And while no one would know if he heard her, it could have likely been the inspiration he needed. Dr. King then continued,
"So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream."
And then the famous Baptist preacher preached on, adding repetition and outlining the specifics of his dream. No one from the authorities was ready for this impromptu speech, but somewhere deep down, they knew something like this could happen. But even earlier, they discussed delivering the speech in the form of a sermon, but nothing was fixed. That day, honesty and emotions ruled the stage and traveled through the crowd. While this spontaneous speech given on a hot August day in 1963 was not considered a universal success immediately, it is now recognized as one of American history's greatest speeches. Inoculation was introduced to America by an enslaved African. Few details are known about the birth of Onesimus, but it's assumed he was born in Africa in the late 17th century before eventually landing in Boston. One of the 1,000 African descendants living in the Massachusetts colony, Onesimus was a gift to the Puritan church minister Cotton Mather's from his congregation in 1706. Onesimus told Mather's about the century-old tradition of inoculation practiced in Africa. By extracting the material from an infected person and scratching it into the skin of an uninfected person, you could deliberately introduce smallpox to the healthy individual, making them immune. He described to Mather's the process of inoculation that had been performed on him and others in his society in Africa, saying people take a juice of smallpox and cut the skin and put in a drop. Considered extremely dangerous at the time, Cotton Mather's convinced Dr. Zabdiel Boylston to experiment with the procedure when a smallpox epidemic hit Boston in 1721, and over 240 people were inoculated. Opposed politically, religiously, and medically in the United States and abroad, public reaction to the experiment put Mather's and Boylston's lives in danger, despite records indicating that only 2% of the patients requesting inoculation died compared to 15% of the people not inoculated who contracted smallpox. Onesimus' traditional African practice was used to inoculate American soldiers during the Revolutionary War and introduced the concept of inoculation to the United States. However, an inscription on Boylston's tomb incorrectly identified him as the first one to have introduced the practice of inoculation into America. In 2016, medical science came to know about Onesimus' contribution, following which he was placed among the 100 best Bostons of all time by Boston Magazine. And when historian Ted Widmer of Montclair Honors College at City University, New York, noted that Onesimus reversed many of the colonists' traditional racial assumptions. He had a lot more knowledge medically than most of the Europeans in Boston at the time. The earliest recorded protest against slavery was by the Quakers in 1688. Quakers, also known as the Society of Friends, have a long history of abolitionism. The initial protest in the 17th century, drafted by Francis Daniel Pastoris, a young German attorney, and 3 other Quakers living in Germantown, Pennsylvania, on behalf of the Germantown meeting of the Religious Society of Friends to raise the issue of slavery with the Quakers meeting which they attended. They saw the slave trade as a grave injustice against their fellow man and used the golden rule to argue against such inhumane treatment. Regardless of skin color, we should do unto others as we will have done unto ourselves. In their protest, they stated, "Pray what things in the world can be done worse towards us, than if men shall rob or steal us away and sell us for slaves to strange countries, separating husband from their wife and children." Their protest against slavery and human trafficking was presented at a monthly meeting at Dublin and Philadelphia. The Dublin monthly meeting reviewed the protest and sent it to the quarterly meeting, feeling it was too serious of an issue for their own meeting to decide. The four friends continued their efforts and presented it at the Philadelphia Yearly Meeting, but it wasn't until 88 years later that the Society of Friends officially denounced slavery. Over the centuries, this rare document has been considered lost twice. Most recently, it was rediscovered in 2005 and is now at Hartford College Special Collections. Of the 12.5 million Africans shipped to the New World during the transatlantic slave trade, fewer than 388,000 arrived in the United States. In the late 15th century, seafaring technology's advancements created a new Atlantic that would change the world forever. As ships began connecting West Africa with Europe and the Americas, new fortunes were sought, and native populations were decimated. With the native labor force dwindling and demand for plantation and mining labor growing, the transatlantic slave trade began. Sea Route gave the green light to the transatlantic slave trade that was underway from 1500 to 1866, shipping more than 12 million enslaved Africans across the world. Of those Africans, only 10.7 million survived the dreaded Middle Passage. Over 400 years, most enslaved Africans, 4.9 million of them, found their way to Brazil, where they suffered incredibly high mortality rates due to terrible working conditions. You will be amazed to know that Brazil was the last country to ban slavery in 1888. By the time the United States became involved in the slave trade, it had been underway for 200 years. The majority, but not all, of its 388 enslaved Africans arrived between 1700 and 1866, representing a much smaller percentage than most Americans realize. The diverse history of historically black colleges and universities. When it comes to the pursuit of civil rights, Jewish and African American communities have a tumultuous shared history. There is a chapter in this shared history that is often overlooked. In the 1930s, when Jewish academics from Germany and Austria were dismissed from their teaching positions, many came to the United States looking for jobs. Due to the Depression, the xenophobia, and the rising anti-Semitism, many found it challenging to find work, but more than 50 found positions at HBCUs in the segregated South. Originally established to educate freed enslaved Africans to read and write, the first of the HBCUs was Cheyney University in Pennsylvania, established in 1837. By the time the Jewish professors arrived, the number of HBCUs had grown to 78. Because both Jews and African Americans were persecuted, Jewish professors in the black colleges found the environment comfortable and accepting, often creating special programs to provide opportunities to engage blacks and whites in meaningful conversation, often for the first time. In the years that followed, the interests of Jewish and African American communities increasingly diverged, but this once shared experience of discrimination and interracial cooperation remains a vital part of the civil rights movement. 1 in 4 cowboys was black, despite the stories told in popular books and movies. Are you surprised? The biggest shock for you is it is believed that the real Lone Ranger was inspired by the African American man named Bass Reeves. Reeves had been born into slavery, but escaped west during the Civil War, where he lived in what was known as Indian Territory. He eventually became a deputy U.S. Marshal, was a master of disguise, an expert marksman, had a Native American companion, and rode a silver horse. Sounds similar to a Tarantino movie? No. If you think he had a unique fate, I'm afraid you are wrong. In the 19th century, the Wild Wild West drew enslaved Africans with the hope of freedom and wages. When the Civil War ended, freedmen came west, hoping for a better life where the demand for skilled labor was high. These African Americans made up at least a quarter of the legendary cowboys. They lived dangerous lives facing weather, rattlesnakes, and outlaws while they slept under the stars driving cattle herds to the market. While there was little formal segregation in the frontier towns and a great deal of personal freedom, black cowboys were often expected to do more of the work in the roughest jobs than their white counterparts. Loyalty did develop between the cowboys on a drive, but the black cowboys were typically responsible for breaking the horse and being the first ones to cross flooded streams during cattle drives. In fact, it is believed that the term cowboy originated as a derogatory term used to describe black cowhands. Esther Jones was the real
Snap your W-2 and file your taxes 100% free with TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of taxpayers qualify. 1040 and limited credits only. Get the TurboTax app now.
Betty Boop. Most of you might be thinking, who's Betty Boop? Why Esther Jones? Let me tell you, these baby characters were similar. The difference was Betty Boop was a cartoon character, thought to be inspired by someone else. Sometimes later, people came to know about Esther Jones and realized she strengthened the roots. The iconic cartoon character Betty Boop was inspired by a black jazz singer in Harlem. Introduced by cartoonist Mac Fleischer in 1930, The jazz-age flapper's character was the first and most famous sex symbol in animation. Betty Boop is known for her revealing dress, curvy figure, and signature vocals, boo-wop-doo. While there has been controversy over the years, the inspiration has been traced back to Esther Jones, known as Baby Esther, and performed regularly in a cotton club during the 1920s. Baby Esther's trademark vocal style of using bops and other childlike scant sounds attracted the attention of Helen Kane during a performance in the late 1920s. After seeing Baby Esther, Helen Kane adopted her style and began using bops in her songs as well. Finding fame early on, Helen Kane often included this baby style into her music. When Betty Boop was introduced, Kane promptly sued Fleischer and Paramount Public Corporation, stating that they were using her image and style. However, video evidence came to light of Baby Esther performing in a nightclub, and the courts ruled against Helen Kane, stating that she didn't have exclusive rights to the bopping style or image, and that style, in fact, predated her. Baby Esther's baby style did little to bring her mainstream fame, as she died in relatively obscurity, but a piece of her lives on in an iconic character, Betty Boop. The first licensed African-American female pilot was named Bessie Coleman. Born in Atlanta, Texas in 1892, Bessie Coleman grew up in a world of harsh poverty, discrimination, and segregation. She moved to Chicago at 23 to seek her fortune, but found little opportunity there as well. Wild tales of flying exploits from returning World War I soldiers first inspired her to explore aviation, but she faced a double stigma in that being both African American and a woman. Coleman set her sights on France to reach her dreams and began studying French. In 1920, Coleman crossed the ocean with all of her savings and the financial support of Robert Abbott, one of the first African-American millionaires. Over the next several months, she learned to fly, and in June of 1921, the Federation of Aeronautique Internationale awarded her an international pilot's license. For African-American women to see the dream of being independent meant a lot then. When feminism was a naive kid, Coleman was flying in the sky. Coleman's return to the United States was widely celebrated. Reporters turned out in droves to greet her. Coleman performed at numerous air shows over the next 5 years, performing thrilling stunts, encouraging other African Americans to pursue flying, and refusing to perform where blacks were not admitted. Only 2 years into her flight career, Coleman survived her first significant airplane accident. In February of 1923, her airplane engine suddenly stopped working and she crashed. She was severely hurt in the accident and suffered a broken leg, a few cracked ribs, and a cut on her face. Thankfully, Coleman was able to heal from her injuries fully. This accident didn't stop her from flying. She went back to performing dangerous air tricks in 1925. On April 30th, 1926, Bessie Coleman took a test flight with a mechanic named William Willis. Willis was piloting the plane as Coleman sat in the passenger seat. At about 3,000 feet in the air, a loose wrench got stuck in the aircraft's engine. Willis was no longer able to control the steering wheel, and the plane flipped over. Unfortunately, Coleman was not wearing a seatbelt. Airplanes at the time did not have a roof or any protection. Coleman immediately fell out of the open plane and died. On her tragic death, the famous writer and equal rights advocate Ida B. Wells presided over her funeral. An editorial in the Dallas Express stated, "There's reason to believe that the general public did not completely sense the size of her contributions to the achievements of the race as such." Interracial marriage in the United States was banned in 1664 and not overturned until 1967. During the 17th and early 18th century, the growing number of interracial marriages, also known as miscegenation, between blacks and whites led to this new law's passage. The first anti-miscegenation law enacted was in the colony of Maryland in 1664, and additional colonies quickly followed suit. These marriages were prohibited, and penalties included the enslavement, exile, or imprisonment of the white perpetrators. These laws grew and evolved over the years, and attempts were even made to modify the Constitution to ban interracial marriage in all states. It would take 300 years for this law to be overturned. In 1967, Richard Loving, a white man, and Mildred Jeter, a black woman, were married in the District of Columbia. When they returned home to Virginia, they were arrested and convicted of violating the state's anti-miscegenation law. They each faced a year in jail, and their case went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court found in favor of the Lovings in a famous trial, Loving v. Virginia. They ruled that prohibiting interracial marriage on state and local levels was unconstitutional. This meant that marriages between the races were legal in the country for the first time since 1664. In 2000, Alabama became the last state to officially legalize interracial marriage by removing an unenforceable ban that was still contained in their state constitution. There are many such cases of rebel lovers who never bowed down.
You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Did you know that dry cleaning was invented in 1821 by a black man named Thomas Jennings? Thomas Jennings owned a dry cleaning business in New York City and was the first black man in the United States to be granted a patent. Thomas L. Jennings was an African-American tradesman and abolitionist in New York. He operated and owned a tailoring business. In 1821, he was one of the first African Americans to be granted a patent for his method of dry cleaning. Dr. Joseph Jackson holds 6 US patents for telecommunications and fertility prediction inventions. Jackson's first patent was for his contribution to a V-chip device that allowed users to block selected content on cable television. This type of technology is commonly used for parental controls. He also holds patent for the TV remote control devices. Granville T. Woods developed the railroad telegraph, a device that transmitted messages through static electricity between moving trains, telephone transmitter, railway system, subway system, roller coaster, and many more. Lonnie Johnson, the man who created the Super Soaker water gun, was awarded $73 million in unpaid royalties from giant toy maker Hasbro. Johnson, who founded the Atlanta-based company behind the Super Soaker, filed a lawsuit against Hasbro for underpaid royalties in the sales of the widely popular water gun, according to the AJC.com. Garrett Morgan invented a safety hood you put over your head to avoid inhaling smoke at standing height. Jesse Eugene Russell, inventor of the digital cell phone. Paul L. Downing, little known Black history fact. This man is named Paul L. Downing. He invented what every household uses today, the mailbox. Downing patented his mailbox on October 27, 1891, and called his invention a street letterbox. 1 year prior to inventing the mailbox, Downing patented an electrical switch that allowed railroad workers to turn on or off the power supply to trains at the necessary times. Downing's design for the railroad switch were used as inspiration for inventors who created residential electrical switches. The street letter drop mailbox with a hinged door that closed to protect the mail was invented by Philip B. Downing. Downing, an African-American inventor, patented his new device on October 27, 1891. Marie Van Britten Brown was an American inventor. She was the inventor of the home security system in 1966, along with her husband, Albert Brown. In the same year, they jointly applied for a patent, which was granted in 1969. The invention was basically the first closed-circuit television security system and is predecessor to the modern home systems today. It led to the foundation for video monitoring, remote-controlled door locks, push-button alarm triggers, instant messaging to security providers and police, as well as two-way voice communication. The fame of Brown's device also led to the more prevalent CCTV surveillance in public areas, according to a 2016 New Scientist report. 100 million concealed closed-circuit cameras are now in operation worldwide. Edmund Berger. In 1813, inventor Edmund Berger invented the spark plug. Although the internal combustion engine, in which the current version of the spark plug is used, was only in the developmental stages in the mid-1800s. Mr. Berger is still given the credit for the invention even without obtaining a patent. Henry Thomas Sampson Jr. was an American inventor known for creating the gamma electric cell, a device with the main goal of generating auxiliary power from the shielding of a nuclear reactor. Henry T. Sampson is the first African American to earn a PhD in nuclear engineering in the United States. He is best known for inventing the gamma electric cell in 1971. Anna Mangin was an American inventor and women's rights campaigner. She invented a kitchen tool she called a pastry fork in 1891. This was different from the eating utensil, also known as a pastry fork. George Crumb. George Speck, also known as George Crumb, born in 1824, was an American chef. He became noted for his culinary skills after being hired at Moon's Lake House on Saratoga Lake near Saratoga Springs, New York. In 1853, he created the potato chip. Sarah Boone was an American inventor who, on April 26, 1892, obtained United States patents for her improvements to the ironing board. Boone's ironing board was designed to improve the quality of ironing sleeves and the bodies of women's garments. The board was very narrow, curved, and made of wood. The shape and structure allowed it to fit a sleeve, and it was reversible, so one could iron both sides of the sleeve. Boone was one of the 4 African American women inventors of her time who developed new technology for the home. Frederick McKinley Jones was an American inventor and winner of the National Medal of Technology and an inductee of the National Inventors Hall of Fame. His innovations in refrigeration brought great improvement to the long-haul transportation of perishable goods. He co-founded Thermo King, which became a $3 million business by 1949. Portable cooling units designed by Jones were especially imported during World War II, preserving blood, medicine, and food for use at army hospitals and on open battlefields. Alfred Crawley was a businessman and inventor of the ice cream mold and disher. Crawley was becoming interested in mechanics. He settled in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where he first served as a porter in a drugstore and at a hotel. Alfred noticed that servers at the hotel had trouble with ice cream sticking to serving spoons, and he developed an ice cream scoop. June 10, 1896, Alfred applied and won a patent on his invention. The patented ice cream mold and disher was an ice cream scoop with a built-in scraper to allow for one-handed operation. Alfred's functional design is reflected in modern ice cream scoops. Patricia Bath was an American ophthalmologist, inventor, humanitarian, and academic. She was an early pioneer of laser cataract surgery. She also became first woman member of the George Stein Eye Institute, first woman to lead a postgraduate training program in ophthalmology, and first woman elected to the honorary staff of the UCLA Medical Center. Bath was the first African American person to serve as a resident in ophthalmology at New York University. She was also the first African American woman to serve on a staff as a surgeon to the UCLA Medical Center. Bath was the first African American woman doctor to receive a patent for a medical purpose. The holder of 5 patents, she also founded the non-profit American Institute for the Prevention of Blindness in Washington, D.C. Madam C.J. Walker, born Sarah Breedlove. She is recorded as the first female self-made millionaire in America. Walker made her fortune by developing and marketing a line of cosmetic and hair care products for black women through the business she founded, Madam C.J. Walker Manufacturing Company. She made financial donations to numerous organizations and became a patron of the arts. At the time of her death, she was considered the wealthiest African American businesswoman and the wealthiest self-made black woman in America. George Washington Carver was an American inventor who promoted methods to prevent soil depletion. Carver wanted poor farmers to grow other crops such as peanuts and sweet potatoes as a sort of their own food and to improve their quality of life. Although he spent years developing and promoting numerous products made from peanuts, none became commercially successful. Carver was also a leader in promoting environmentalism. His fame reached beyond the black community. He was widely recognized and praised in the white community for his many achievements and talents. In 1941, Time magazine dubbed Carver a black Leonardo. Benjamin Banneker was a genius and the United States' first great black inventor. He helped draw up plans for the building of Washington, D.C. and has also been credited for making the first clock to be built completely in America. He borrowed a pocket watch from a neighbor. He took it apart and studied its workings. He made a drawing of each component, then reassembled the watch and returned it fully functioning to its owner. From his drawings, Banneker then proceeded to carve out of wood enlarged replicas of each part, calculating the proper number of teeth for each gear and the necessary relationships between the gears. He completed construction of a working wooden clock in 1753 that kept accurate time and struck the hours.
You ever see a black man walk? It's like rhythm and meter got up off the page and decided to move and glide with spirit. You ever see a black man walk in the room, Morris Cole style, like keep tap dancing? I'm here. In those steps are messages, and you have to listen carefully. They trying to kill me. Stop, search, and frisk me. There are prayers in a black man's walk. Don't let them shoot me down where I'm standing. Don't let the white chalk lines find me. Don't let me die in the streets like an animal. I'm a man. I swear I'm a man. When a black man walks, a whole generation lives to see another day, another sunrise, another mouth to feed, another seed, another sacrifice saved, another poem, another hungry burning cross, another mother breathing in her son's ear. Move easy. Move quietly. Keep your head down, boy. It don't matter if you 16 or 60. When a black man walks, he is always hunted. He is always animal. He is always standing out like a living corpse. He smells like a KKK appetizer. Nuggets of his own flesh dipped in his own blood. Ooh-wee! When a black man walks, he often finds white women walking closely behind him. But you can't blame a white sister for liking the way a black man walks. She understands some things and is cool with the fact that her babies will have nappy hair, even though she will not know how to comb it. When a black man walks, wait for it. Listen to the orchestra playing beneath his feet. Pay attention to the vibrations when he walks in a room. See how many faces change to fear in the presence of a black man. See how many women hold their purse so tightly their fingers grow numb. See how many men hide their eyes wishing the darkness would go away. Maybe choke itself to death. That ugly 2/3 human being, that next to nothing black dot, that useless prison black spot. When a black man walks, every day he is like Jesus, paranoid of crucifixion. Every day he is like Trayvon, knowing that his hoodie had nothing to do with his last breath. If only bullets could kill racism, poverty, and the traumas of slavery. You pay attention when a black man walks. You listen when a black man walks. His feet have a mind of their own, a compass, a homing device. 400 years of directions. Find your way home safely. Don't let Jim Crow steal your soul. Don't let gentrification lose your memory. Don't let police brutality castrate you. Do what your mama said do. Run, run, run when their teeth are already covered in blood. Do what your mama said do. Run, run, run when a black man walks. He ain't got time to walk. Death is always like, black men are the easiest to find. They are the strongest but the most fragile. They are the calm and the storm. They die like they expect to. When a black man walks, think of it as a masterpiece, a beautiful song that you may only hear once. Cherish it. You may never hear it again.
Usisileleli Afrika, malukawa Yesu pondorayo, izwahimitana soyetu, Usisilelena China, lusapolwayo, Lulena buluka sichama sa Yesu, Usibuluke, sichabasa, Yesu, sichabasa, South Africa, South Africa.
Enslaved people who use Long Island to escape their chains may never be known. But today on this Juneteenth, a church that was used as a hideout honored its past and celebrated its future. CBS 2's Jennifer McLogan reports from Manhasset.
If only the white wooden walls, the cedar shake roof, the pews of pine could talk, what secrets would unfold?
The history of the Underground Railroad is intertwined with our church.
Right here in Manhasset, Long Island, this humble church was one of a network of safe houses during the Civil War. And Harriet Tubman herself, scout, spy, and suffragette, was believed to have used this AME Zion church for more than one of her dangerous missions, rescuing enslaved people. Reverend Keith Harris is pastor.
To recognize her life, legacy, and her contribution to our people as a race and to America, So this is not just a part of history, it's a part of our life, our current events.
What is now known as Juneteenth is a fitting point of reference for those who serve roles like those of 19th century abolitionists who fought to eliminate violence and social death perpetrated on black people.
It just gives me trembles to know that 200 years ago, all that they had to do to struggle.
Adjacent to the Freedom Church, I'm standing in what was called the Colored Persons Cemetery, the final resting place for local slaves, freedmen, and Native Americans.
I thought about the Middle Passage. I thought about my ancestors. I thought about those that I can only feel in this graveyard, that I will never be able to redact and trace the history from where we have come.
Many urging Juneteenth become a national holiday.
We're not only here to celebrate and memorialize remembering our history, but history is in the making.
The little church still stands, symbol of the Underground Railroad, on their way to freedom, not yet fully achieved. From Manhasset, Long Island, Jennifer McLogan, CBS 2 News.
Hey everybody, my name is Daniel Hilty, and I'm really excited about this week's episode of 3-Minute Methodist History because we get to hear from one of my favorite human beings on earth, a dear friend, Reverend Dr. Anthony Witherspoon, as he tells us a little bit about the history of the African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church, also known as the Freedom Church. Reverend Witherspoon, Dr. Witherspoon, good morning. It's good to have you with us.
Good morning. I'm happy to be with you. I pray all is well on your end.
We are doing fine. Thank you. Thank you. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind maybe just talking a little bit, please, about how did the AME Zion Church get started?
We worshiped at John Street Methodist Church in New York for a while. Of course, that was a mixed congregation. We enjoyed being there until it came to the point where during communion we were unable to take communion with our white brothers and sisters often, and our ministers who decided to preach were unable to preach in the pulpit. We had to preach behind tables and so forth or outside. So about 1793. Our people said we need to look at being on our own. We're not going to leave the Methodist Church because we like the umbrella of Methodism, and for ordinational purposes as well with that structure. So in 1796, that was the camel breaking the back, the straw that broke the camel's back rather, and we ventured out on our own. And as a result of that, we have been known as the Freedom Church because not only did we branch out on our own, we were the second Black Methodist church behind the AMEs, but we had people who were part of our church, such as Harriet Tubman and Sojourner Truth, who were both freedom fighters and so forth for justice sake.
Wow.
And they have also bequeathed their properties to us that we still own today. And as a result, we started in New York City and we branched out through Philadelphia and the Baltimore, down south through the Carolinas, and then went west to all the way to as far as California. And we have churches also throughout the world, in England and the Caribbean and Africa. We have thousands of congregations in Africa, especially, but we have done our due diligence, or tried to anyway, to embrace equality, while also branching out to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. So that's how we have. That's how we got our start, and we really, truly try to uphold the Freedom Church model. Realizing that one need not be the same hue as us, as long as we can join together for the sake of building.
Oh, that's great. That's great. What do you appreciate most about being in the AME Zion Church today?
Yeah. I like the sense of order that it brings to a disciplined life, a daily disciplined life that is not carefree, but that is very intentional about striving to be better today than I was yesterday. Taking care of the needs of people, the social justice piece, and social services piece, making sure that all that we do, even today, reflects what our foreparents wanted. So I love the fact that we still have that principle in place to do due diligence in people's lives for the sake of kingdom building.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate you and the AME Zion Church, and love you and love Washington Metropolitan. And
well, you know, we love you too. You're first class all the way, brother.
You're too kind. It's all mutual. It's all mutual. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
We should believe in God. He has never lost a battle. He has never lost a war. He has never lost a fight. Not forsaken me. My God has never lost a battle. He has never lost a war. He has never lost a fight. Not forsaken me. Ọba mi kò ṣeun jìyà. Kò ṣeun jì. Ọba mi kò ṣeun jìyà. Rárá kò ṣeun jì. Ọba mi kò ṣeun jìyà. Kò ṣeun jì. Ọba mi kò ṣeun jìyà. Come on, raise your sound to the God who has never failed you. I am the God of all flesh. Is there anything too hard for me to do? No. Koseunti, Agbebi, Koseunti, Koseunti, Agbebi, Koseunti. Ebele kana masiri, kamo ujale kana. Ela kuri, kuni kama ni mani kuzale baraba yala kuzala nani baba baba. Koseunti, yeah. There is nothing impossible for you to do. 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 Koseunti, Agbebi, Koseunti, ebele kumane mani mana so malakare. Koseunti, 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 Agbebi, Koseunti, Koseunti, Agbebi, Koseunti. Koseunti, Agbebi, Koseunti.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Full of the faith that the dark past has taught,